minutes of racing action. A 40-minute race set to have a whole lot of stuff to worry about if you are these racers. Have to worry about the pit stop. Inside your screen, switched his attention to the massive pack of race cars that's going to blow his doors off and blow off the starter stand. The green flag is out, the drivers are on their way. Locked at this race, the grass and the gravel that lines this racetrack. It's old school, so it doesn't have a whole lot of asphalt runoff area. He's a very talented racer of his own. These two fast. He grabs very early on into this race, looking Danny Wood at a big crash, heading through turn number 1. That's chasing that turn number 4. And here we go, side-by-side racing off into the corner. This can usually end in tears. One of these drivers is going to have to back out of it. That's going to be at Dalla. But Maunz still allowing some room coming out of the corner. The side-by-side going up the hill through turn number 6. Spade coming out of the corner. Walker, the Canadian, in the number 96. They are banging doors, heading into the braking time for the final time. They're linked together. That or you put a qualifying fuel load in either way. Getting a whole lot of pressure side by side with himself, and that is
now coming out of the pits. Let's see what his pit lane time is, because this is going to be very important when Yanchi wins.
I don't know what to say. Oh, there's Brett Cathcart upside down. And another driver coming in. That's Jeff Jacobson upside down. Oh, boy. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 7 of the season, coming to you today from the Red Bull Ring. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for tonight's broadcast. We continue on this season and get the second half of it underway at the Red Bull Ring. Charles, this is a bit of a draft-heavy racetrack, and with some draft-heavy cars, I think we're in for a draft-heavy race.
I think you may be right. At least half of the track is draft heavy. Basically, from the start-finish straight all the way out to the entry of turn 4, lots and lots of drafting is going to happen. But then once you get out of 4 into the back half of that circuit, it's a little more technical. Use a little more some sweeper corners that you're going to have to deal with, and watch out for your track limits in the process. So, looking forward to a good race. I think this is going to be fun.
Yeah, this is going to be an enjoyable one. We get flashback to that Formula Ford race that we had here a couple of weeks ago, and that was a barn burner as well. And you usually don't really think of those cars as draft-heavy ones. Here in these SRFs, though, with those sleek bodies on them, punches a pretty big hole in the air, and it's just a huge slipstream game. We've got a fantastic schedule to look forward to for the second half of this season here on SMB. The Red Bull Ring today, Bathurst in 1 week's time. That was a fantastic race last season. I believe it's also the most viewed Weekend Warriors broadcast in the history of this series being on SMB. So if that doesn't speak of the racing action, I really don't know what will. The Hungaro Ring, that's going to be a pretty festive one. Then finally, to round this season to a conclusion, we have the 10th race at the Phoenix Road Course, Silverstone on the National Layout, and Oschersleben. That's going to be a rather fun one, but still, we've got this race at the Red Bull Ring to think of first. And before we even get into the race, I think we should probably take a look at those championship point standings, because we're already halfway through this season 2 of 2025 here from the SRF Weekend Warriors, and we've seen some drivers rise up to the top. Here's how it looks looks like in Spec 1. Jason Green is leading the championship. 541 points is what he has at the moment. Have to go a little bit farther back to find Maurizio Nazelli in P2, and from there you have to go even farther back to find your reigning champion of Felix Samoa is slotted in P3. Dan Witzak, his teammate, is slotted in 4th. It has been a brilliant debut season for the reigning Spec 2 champion. Andre Favini is rounding out your top 5 in the Spec 1 category. And now we take a look over to Spec 2, where it's been a bit more competitive. Eric Luke has been quick from the drop of the green flag through to this point right now. It was off the back of 4 straight race victories at Magny-Cours, Spa, Long Beach, and Okayama. Didn't get done at Donington Park last time out. Instead, it was Andrew Love who runs at your top 5, grabbing the win there. But looking at that pack of Geese, Jackson, and Love, it was pretty close there. We may have to talk about some more championship battles. And here's how it looks like in the Masters category, where it is oh so close. Tom Gradwell and Kurt Nunez are currently P1 and P2. Gradwell at 327, Nunez at 323. Those two have been quick. Brad Cathcart's been quick as well. Jeff Fritscher actually has the most amount of wins thus far this season at 4, but because of some inconsistent form, he finds himself P4 in the point standings as it stands presently, with Joseph Tarantino rounding out our top 5. Charles, this Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warrior Series is usually the one where consistency pays off the most when it comes to those championship battles. And I think one quick look on those standings really proves it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ron. And yeah, it's usually I'm kind of shocked that we've got some of the point gaps in S1 and S2 that we do. Normally, this part of the season is still pretty tight, but we've had some pretty outstanding performances by a couple of drivers, and they've kind of stretched their gap. So it's going to be interesting to see if anybody can kind of rise to the occasion. I know that you're looking in Spec 2. We had Matt Thompson and Eric Luke. Matt, I think, was the fastest guy in the practice session before qualifying. So obviously got some good pace in the car. Not having a great qualifying run, so he's down a few spots from Luke. So it'll be something to watch, and he can use the draft to his advantage and work his way up and give Luke a battle. So we'll have to keep an eye on those, basically for the entire 40 minutes. And generally speaking, that somebody makes a mistake in the pits and kind of ends up ruining their race. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that as well.
And around a racetrack like this as well, where you've got that very challenging pit entry, even the turn before it's of Jochen Rindt curve of turn number 9. That's super challenging as well. Gotta be keeping our eye out on these competitors come time for that pit cycle, which, as we've seen many, many times here in the Weekend Warriors before, play a super huge role in how things shake out in these races. But as we're still in this qualifying session, we're gonna give you a nice little lap guide around this racetrack here at the Red Bull Ring. A storied racetrack. This version of the track hasn't been around for too terribly long. It's been open since 2011 in its current iteration, but it is still a super fun ride in the world of racing, hosting the Formula 1 Austrian Grand Prix and the host of this SRF race here today. Here's a lap with Andallo heading down into turn number 1, taking the liberties with those curbs on entry and exit. That's a dangerous game, though. As you said, Charles, those incident points can come back to bite you on the butt. So as much as that may be the quick run through turn number 1, you don't want to do that every single lap. This is turn number 2. Yes, that is marked as a corner. Yes, I'm still salty about that. It makes it 10 turns around this racetrack. And here is the third, the AMS AG hairpin. Very catchy name, rolls off the tongue like rich gooey molasses. That's a pretty good overtaking opportunity around this racetrack. It's used in real life, will get used in the sim, especially with that long straightaway leading up to it. It's another long flat out blast down the hill off into Rouch of turn number 4. Another hairpin-esque corner. It's a heavy braking zone, to be sure. These drivers banging down the gears in these SRFs, and then you still have to turn. Heading through turn number 5, keeping these drivers and keeping their tires on their toes. This is Power Horse of turn number 6. Nope, it's not horsepower. Nope, it's not Powerhouse. Power Horse. That sounds pretty awesome for a turn name. Using the liberties coming out of the corners, setting yourself up well into turn number 7. This 7 and 8 section, super hard to get right, as we see with Andallo running a little bit wide off into the gravel, heading through that turn. It sacrifices this run onto this small little flat out blast between 8 and 9. It's a long run in these low-powered Spec Racer Fords, and with how strong the draft is in these cars as well, any small little loss down a flat out blast can make a huge difference at the end of this race. That was the final two turns of turn number 9 and 10. Super tough to try and get right. The track limits are a nightmare heading through there, but it's still a fun ride around the Red Bull Ring, and that was Andalo's lap.
Yeah, absolutely, and you could just see he was trying to just maximize his track usage as much as he could, but obviously that outside curb at turn 1 is critical. And you mentioned the Formula One Grand Prix that runs here. We've seen lots of incidents happen with those cars up in that corner, and we've seen lots of incidents with our races up in that corner. Just, there's ways to go through there too wide, and then there's ways that you don't. And these curbs will upset the car. They're going to be very careful. You can use the curb to your advantage, but you can't overuse the curb. As you saw when we were on board with Andalo, you already saw debris on the track. That's going to be another factor. If you get offline, you're going to get in that gravel, and that's going to make the car difficult to handle. So that'll be another thing that we'll have to watch out for as well. And finally, pit entry and pit exit are both challenges. Pit entry is very, very easy to kind of run a little wide and end up getting that unsafe pit entry penalty, and then you're basically in a box running up through on pit exit until you make that turn around the inside of turn 1 before it kind of spits you out right in the racing line. So that'll be something we'll have to watch as well.
And currently watching this qualifying session, which is looking to be a barn burner. Marco Pinheiro holds on to the provisional pole, but just barely behind him is the Spec 2-man of Eric Luke. He just set a barn burner of a lap time last time by in the 709 car to jump his way up onto that front row. You can see him out on the racetrack still. There he is. He's got the draft assistance of the cars around him, but in a pack like this, once the overtaking starts to get too bad, you may start to lose out on a little bit of time. So Eric Luke looking to try and hold on to that P2 result in this qualifying session and maybe even improve on it. Hey, around this racetrack, it may not be the longest in the world, but it's still 2.7 miles, 10 turns in all, and if you can just get a couple of inches closer into some of the apexes around here, you could shave off 3/100ths of a second off your lap time rather easily. So let's see if Eric Luke will be able to do it. Kane Lasky, while the other cars involved in this battle, he is slotted in 7th. Right behind him on the timing tower is Jeff Fritcher, your current Masters provisional pole sitter. Pinheiro still on the overall pole. Luke slotted in 2nd. He's coming onto that start-finish straight away for one of the last times in this session. He's going to have the time to get one more lap on the board after this one. And here's a driver yet to set a time, but he's going to be quick. It's Yanxi Lin in the number 30 car. He won the rather hectic race at Summit Point last season here from the Spec Racer Fords. And Charles, the both of us have some pretty fond memories of that man running in these races and just putting in some performances to have your jaw be on the floor.
Yeah, Yanxi is a multiple-time SCCA runoff winner in iRacing. So absolutely is a monster behind the wheel of any of these cars, and Spec Racer seems that he really enjoys it. He's always quick. He did come in late, so I can imagine he's basically just out kind of getting sightings on the track and just trying to get a feel for everything, get settled in. So not really looking to push for a fast time, but more likely just looking to get into the rhythm before the race, and we'll get to watch him work his way from the back, so that'll be interesting to see.
And as we cut back to the action, you can see, that's a rather interesting interpretation of track limits from Jason Perry. I think he's in the small little, there he is.
Yeah.
Just him get grabbed out of the tire barrier in the back of shot. That should not have made me laugh, but it still did.
We may have some guys out doing some investigative work for post-race festivities that we usually see here. These guys like to go out and just destroy the cars, so they'll find a good place to get a run and a jump, or hide behind barriers and set things up. So maybe Jason was out there just kind of taking a look, see what we're going to do once the race is over. But I'm sure whatever it is, it'll be crazy. So that's I'll have that to look forward to at the end of the 40 minutes of racing.
Yeah, we got a fantastic 40-minute long race in front of us. I'm still trying to collect myself after that Jason Perry moment. Just a small little ether between what is part of the back straightaway between turns number 1 and 3, and some of the shortcut versions of this track. That
Yeah.
one's driven on some of the funkier layouts here of the Red Bull Ring. It's a rather fascinating racetrack and some pretty good history baked into it as well. Originally was called the Österreich Ring many moons ago. It was briefly abandoned, and then it got resurrected, turned into the A1 ring back in the 90s, and it remained that way up until, I believe it got abandoned in the early 2000s. I think it was from 2004 up until 2011. The track was basically left in complete disrepair. There was weeds grown out of the gravel traps. The run up to turn number 1 had a massive gaping hole in it where the under the track tunnel comes up right about there on the track. You can see the exit tunnel there. That was completely collapsed in. This track was in really rough shape not terribly long ago, but it has had a resurgence and is a fine motorsports facility, and that was a fantastic qualifying session. At the end of it all, though, Marco Pinero will grab the pole. Last time out, Jason Green was able to get a second win this season. Let's see if Pinero can do it after winning earlier on at Long Beach. Let's see how he'll do from the pole. Starting alongside him will be our P2 Spec 2 pole sitter of Eric Luke. We have Felix Samoa starting in third as a reigning champion. Maurizio Nazelli, his old rival, will start in P4. We have Flavio Andallo, the Brazilian, in fifth. Jason Green, the American, in sixth. Kane Lasky will start this race in seventh in the 09 car. Starting alongside will be your Masters pole sitter of Jeff Fritscher. In P9, it's Tom Gradwell, and in P10, it's Joachim Osbach.
Yep. Josh Wilkie, our old buddy, starts in P11. Philip Berry starts in 12th. Matt Thompson, Spec 2, runs in 13th. Jason Perry in 14th. Yangshi Lin actually does get a time in mid-pack, 15th position. Jim Brewster starts in 16th. Andrew Love in 17th. Adam Bradshaw starts 18th. Paul Jackson in 19th. Apollo Brim starts in P20.
And then looking through the drivers that we have starting outside of the top 10, the list continues on with Brad Cathcart in 21st, Jeff Jacobson in 22nd, we have Stevie Ray in 23rd, Ken Poulin in 24th, Michelle Vaglini in 25th, Mario Kremser will start in 26th, Andre Favini in 27th, Russ Telker in 28th, and Anthony Claudel will round out your 29 cars set to grab the green flag here in a couple of moments time, waiting for that pace lap to get underway here. And a rather short grid here from the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, but still pretty stout with talent. We got many racers that you see week in and week out here from the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, and they're going to look to have some fun to kick off the second half of this season. And for the second half of the season, we have picked up a wonderful partner and an old friend. Today's broadcast of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors is brought to you by Alliance Autosports. Based in Columbus, Ohio, Alliance Autosports' mission is to provide unparalleled racing support and services to their clients. Whether it be car prep or driver coaching and development, the hardworking team at Alliance Autosport will strive to build a community of passionate and successful racers. Alliance specializes in SRF 3, FE2, and TA2 machinery, and their track record in those classes should tell you everything you need to know about the great team of talented people over there. For more information, head to AllianceAutosport.com. We would like to thank Alliance Autosport for picking up the sponsorship duties here from the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors for the second half of this season. That's right, folks. They're sponsor the next 6 races, and it's going to be a 6-race run to try and decide some champions. Felix Samoas, he's your reigning champion in the Spec 1 category. He's going to be starting this race in third. It hasn't been a fantastic season for Samoas up to this point. He won the second round at Magny-Cours, but ever since then, he's been on a bit of a losing streak, if we're being completely honest. So if there's one man in this field that's going to be on a mission, it will probably be Felix Samoas in my eyes. Charles, who's one driver that you're going to be keeping your attention on?
Well, you know, actually, the Eric Luke is sitting up there in P2, and he's in amongst just a group of very, very fast racers in that Spec 1 category. Pinero, Samoas, Naselli, Andallo, Jason Green. And it's just like, okay, so I want to see how he does. Obviously, we got to get through turn 1. That's the biggest thing. But once we get through turn 1, we head down that long straightaway. We'll see what he does and how he handles the draft, and if he's going to be fighting from the get-go, or if he's going to be kind of just biding his time. Obviously, you know, the cars behind are going to be able to get a good tow down that straightaway. You know, you can battle if you want, but it just ends up costing you a lot of time. And anybody that's in front of a battle like that, it's just going to kind of pull away. So we'll see how Eric does. I think obviously very accomplished racer, doing, you know, outstanding in Spec 2, probably gets promoted. No good deed goes unpunished. So probably moves up in rankings once this season's over with. So you know, it's we'll see how he handles the pressure of battling with these really quick drivers up front.
And this will be the highest starting spot for a Spec 2 driver all season long here from the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. The highest before then was actually Eric's performance in the second round at Magny Core, where he started this race in 6th. It is going to be an entirely different world, and we'll also raise Jeff Fritcher starting from the pole in Masters. That will be the highest starting Masters driver since round 3 at Spa. So a lot of things to be determined here at the Red Bull Ring, waiting for that green flag to come out in a couple of moments for Panero to gun it. The green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way. Panero off to a flyer in that number 16 car. Gonna look to try and hold on to the race lead as they head their way down into turn number 1. The first heavy braking zone, that flat out blast before you have to hit on the brakes, is just long enough for these drivers to think about getting a move done. Look at Yanchi Lin. He's probably going to stick at 3 wide. He will stick at 3 wide coming out of turn number 1, clearly deciding that now is the time to pound. Wants to get some moves done very early on into this race. One driver getting moved on the early stages was Felix Samoa as he jumped in front of Eric Luke, who's dropped down to 3rd. One driver making up a whole lot of spots is going to be Yanchi Lin. Jason Perry up 2 spots as well, and you can see those two nearly coming to blows, heading down into turn number 3. Lots of these drivers itching to get any moves possible.
Yeah, it was very smart on Luke's part. He just was on the outside going into 1 and just said, you know what, it's not the time for it. I'm going to let Samoa's go, and I'll tuck in behind, and that's exactly what he did, and it was a very smart strategy there. Oh, I think we got a spin. Did I see a spinner? Yeah, we did.
Yes,
that's Jeff Fritcher. Oh, no, and there's more. That's Lasky. Could not see the other car. Maybe
that may have
Phil
been
Berry.
Yeah, Phil Berry dropping down the running order in the Cookie Monster car, so Crum Gang taken out of his race. Fritcher dropping down in the 943 car. We saw him spun. I think that may have been multiple different incidents going on in the span of a couple of seconds. Here's the run off through the mid-sector. You can already see the gravel spread around through turn number 7, and that may happen in turn 4 if there's more incidents like that between now and the end of this race. Marco Panero is still your race leader. We have Felix Samoa slotted in 2nd. Eric Luke, your Spec 2 top runner, started this race in 2nd, ends this first lap in 3rd. Maritza Nazelli and Jason Green rounding out your top 5, and Flavio Andala with an interesting interpretation of track limits right behind.
Yeah, he took that quite a bit wide, and that's, you know, 9-10 complex. Those last 2 corners are very difficult to get right, and there's off tracks in there and slowdowns, and you have to be very careful. I think he managed to get back on the track before the slowdown got triggered, but obviously he had a little off track there as we continue on. Back up here in the front, and you can see Samoa is just pushing Panero down the straightaway.
And clearly these drivers are saying that those bumpers better get worn out by the end of this race. Look at Yanchi Lin in the background, though. Holy cow, he took the run of a lifetime heading down that back straightaway off into turn 3. Gets, I think, a 3-for-1 deal in the span of one single straightaway. Yanchi, who started this race a little bit farther towards the back, has already made his way up 9 spots. He finds himself in P6 as Brad Cathcart has run into some difficulties in the 905. He's dropped down to P16, P26, I should say, second to last of the runners. As we take a look at some of the drivers battling a little bit farther in the back of shot, it is pandemonium here early on at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, and I did see Apollo Brim's already in the pits as well, so apparently he was involved in that. So we just, to be honest, just taking it down the inside, just laid on the brakes. Obviously, did we mention that he's a SCCA runoff champion in this car? Oh, there's the Bradshaw with sideways coming through 3. Contact made, got the little hood popped on somebody's car, and he managed to get the car turned around. Was that Stevie Ray? Oh no,
yeah, I think Stevie picked up the souvenir and all of that, so that was unfortunate for him.
Yeah,
as we take a look at Fritcher spinning down into turn number 4. There was some more extracurricular drama heading off to that section at the very beginning of this race, and some weird geometry stuff going on there. Backed it in and then turned it back around, no big deal. Here's Phil Berry in the number 88 car, coming up blows coming out of the section. Where some drivers in front, and he had nowhere to go as Lasky tries to rejoin.
Yeah, Lasky had to make a reaction for Fritcher spinning in front, move to the inside. We were back on here with Russ Telker. I did see also Josh Wilkie did get a little bit of contact on the front as well as Lasky was trying to get it checked up. As we're looking down, this is, I think, coming into turn four again. Oh, just a little later, a little earlier on the brakes than the car behind, and the contact was made front to rear. So those guys are going to have to get righted and back out. I do see Paulo Brim is back out on the track. So obviously, I think he's actually still on the lead lap. He's just very far back. So we'll see as that updates as we're back on board here up at the front.
Yeah, back up at the front of the field and in live action. Marco Pinero is still your race leader. Felix Samoas and Maritza Nazelli now completing an all-spec 1 front 3 with Eric Luke, this man in the 709 car, dropping back down. He's still rather good at the moment in Spec 2. Here's your Masters leader of Tom Gradwell in the 909 car. He runs right behind Matt Thompson, who's your P2 runner in the Spec 2 category, so a bit of a cushion for Eric Luke. At the front of the field, Pinero and Samoas, they've broken away a little bit. It's a bit of a gap developing. Second tries to charm with themselves and Nazelli as Lasky blinking in that existence very briefly there. No harm, no foul for the driver of the 09 car. Quick call to the cable company with some not very kind words. We'll get that issue resolved as Pinero still at the front with some speed, saying the fast lap of the race last time by to boot.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see the second group there, including Lynn and Osbeck and Josh Wilkie. They're, Lynn's going to try and be the Pied Piper for that group and try and drag them up to the front of the field. What they're really looking for is these guys up front to start doing a little battling into the corners. It's going to slow them down as we see Naselli move to the inside.
Yeah, Nazelli looking at the race lead. He's going to get the move done down through the braking zone into turn number 3. But here comes Felix Samoas with a monstrous run coming out of the corner. He's going to make it 3 wide coming out of turn number 3 down this flat-out blast. Marco Pinero is going to back out of it. He does not have a good feeling about this at all. It'll still be side-by-side racing with Samoas and Nazelli. Nazelli on that inside line. Here comes Pinero with the dive on Samoas as he missed the apex a little bit. Pinero actually going to work out pretty well in all of that. Samoas, he made the move stick very, very temporarily. Then he hit a corner. Yeah, exactly right. As we see this second group now led by Osbeck, and so they're just loving that battle up front. Actually, he's gained them about 0.7 of a second, I think, over the lap. So they're hoping those guys continue that. We're going to make this a big train at the front of the field very quickly. And let's see when this train develops. My harmonica is looking at me menacingly, but thankfully I have that out of arm's reach, so no harm, no foul. Just kidding, it's right within arm's reach. I'm not going to play it on this broadcast. Nothing would blow this audience out quicker. Let's look at this battle that's being led by Joachim Osbeck in the 210 car. Osbeck is a very quick driver here in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, but he's been struck by many falling anvils throughout this season. I think the only thing that he really has to dread is Yan Shi Lin maybe putting a move on him, side by side between Jason Perry and Matt Thompson, coming to blows, heading down into turn number 1. That could have ended in tears. It's going to allow some more battling going on. It was actually Wilkie and Perry making a little bit of contact, heading down into the corner. Matt Thompson going to be the beneficiary in all of that. He's going to try and make it a 2-for-1 deal at the start of this lap. Here we go. Thompson on the outside. Wilkie trying to make it 3 wide. That's not going to work. Oh, what contact being made. That's between Wilkie and Thompson. How did they get through their 3 wide?
I don't know, but that was a great move by Josh, just deep down the inside of the corner, able to get the move made, get it stuck. Ooh, as you see, looks like he got a little contact from behind by Perry. I did notice Josh is kind of backing up a little bit, and it's simply because of that front damage on his car as they're still battling through turn 4. So you see Lasky now has a run. He's able to get by Perry. So he's got to just, he's having to play a little safe, I think. He wants to fight, but obviously he's going to be a little down on top speed, so he may have to just kind of suffer for a bit and kind of ride in line until we get to the pit stop.
Yeah, just make sure you can still be in the discussion instead of trying to force something at this stage of the race. And all of that battling, you can see that gap has ballooned out between Wilkie in 8th and Ozbek, who's now in P7. Yanchi Lin putting the move on the 210 of Ozbek. So Yanchi now up 9 spots from where he started in this race. Jeff Jacobson, though, I want to give a shout out to him. He's currently slotted in 14th. He has already made up 8 spots from the drop of the green flag to where we are right now, a tick over 9 minutes into this race. Jacobson putting on a pretty good performance. Did have a very good run in that Formula V Weekend Warriors race yesterday here on SMB, but looking to redeem himself in the SRF, that's a pretty good run thus far. But Andre Favini, I just caught him in the corner of my eye. He's up 10 spots. Holy cow.
Yeah, he's having a good run as well, up 10 positions already as we're seeing this battle here between Perry and Lasky. And Josh Wilkie and Matt Thompson just kind of looking back there, saying, "Okay, what are these guys doing?" You see Andalo and Gradwell in the back of that shot as well. So we got a nice 5-car train up front. We've got the Ozbek and Lynn duo, and then another 6-car train behind them. So once again, you can battle, but at the end of the day, you're costing yourself time, and the point of the whole thing is be up as close to the front as possible.
And that is such a huge factor in these races. You could get caught up in the smoke and mirrors of an early race battle all you want, but if you're not there at the 40-minute mark, you're not going to be in discussion for a win, as Kane Lasky blinking in and out yet again. He had some connection issues during the Formula Ford race earlier on, had some issues during the Formula V race yesterday, so something amiss with the hamster running on the wheel that makes up his internet connection. As we take a look to see a moment involving Adam Bradshaw in the 929 car, the Masters competitor, had a moment earlier on in the race and has another one. This time it's a turn 4.
Yeah, that's just a little too deep in the braking zone. I think maybe had to check up a little bit for the car in front, but obviously carrying too much speed and just kind of looped it around. No contact this time, so able to just get back on track and continue on as we're back up here with this battle with Lasky and Wilkie and Perry.
And it is still a train forming between these competitors. Another car with front end damage leading it, and that is Kane Lasky in the 09. You raised this earlier on, Charles. Any small little bit of an aerodynamic tweak can really hurt you badly in these Spec Racer forwards. You can see Lasky and Wilkie basically have the same exact sort of damage on the front clip of their race cars. It's just the wheel is peeking out a teeny tiny bit, and it may not seem like much. It's only a couple of inches. I think Jason Perry may have it on the front end of his race car as well. But those couple of inches of tire peeking out, that acts like a parachute.
It really does. I mean, you have to look at it from the front, and it's basically a big rectangle. There is a rounded edge to it, but it's essentially a big rectangle sitting out there. It's just catching air. Obviously, it makes the car handle quite a bit differently. You're going to get some understeer in one direction, some oversteer in the other direction, as well as you're losing time down those long straightaways. So it's, but these guys may not even be able to notice that. I mean, they might see a little bit of damage, but they don't know how severe it is until they'll get back into the pits and see what it does when that fast repair gets enabled and it pops back out.
And that's a good point to raise. There's been many times when I've just been running in like AI races by myself in certain types of race cars. You get a bit of damage and you can't really tell. So let's say you're Joshua Wilkie, for instance. You pull out to try and get a move done like he's doing right now down into turn number 1. That's going to be quick off into the corner, but he made it stick surprisingly. So well done to Josh. But because he's now the one punching the hole in the air, he's got to feel like a sitting duck hanging down this straightaway. You can see Lasky, I think he may have picked up a slowdown coming out of the corner. That is unusually slow, heading down that flat-out blast as Perry looking to get a move done down the inside of Wilkie off into turn number 3. Proves the point that I was talking about. You may not see that damage as, holy cow, Matt Thompson and Kane Lasky nearly coming to blows heading down into turn number 3. But you don't realize you have that damage. Then you pull out of the draft, and it feels like you slammed straight into a brick wall.
Yep, absolutely right. And, you see the damage that Perry's got a little bit. Wilkie's got some. Lasky has some. Matt Thompson's got the only one who Lasky spins just too much into that corner.
Shane
I think he's
Lasky going to
towed.
call it a day
Yep.
after that.
Yeah, I think he's going to tow that one back, probably out of frustration more than anything else. I don't know that he'll continue, but I think if these guys could see what we're seeing, they may let Thompson run to the front and just kind of tuck in behind him and let him, because he's going to have the fastest of the cars. He has some really good pace in practice. So I would do, but obviously once again, those guys probably aren't seeing what we're seeing.
Yeah, now that we are getting into the pit cycle of this race, past that 10-minute mark, so we may have to start thinking about drivers coming down pit lane, not because of any sort of incidents, but because of a genuine strategy call. We'll say our usual metric, as Adam and I were joking about on that Spec Racer Ford show earlier on, Mr. Stevie Ray, he's out of it. He's slotted in 28th. Not sure what may have happened to him. I know one thing for certain. He wore the front clip of one of the Spec Racing Fords in front of him like a hat earlier on. There was a bit of a contact with Bradshaw, and I'm not entirely sure who else it was. It may have been Mario Kremser, and in the process of that, the front clip popped off the car and it got stuck onto Stevie's head. He's out of the race, so not sure what's going on with him, but he's currently slotted in 28th and is out of the session, as this battle that we've been keeping tabs on for quite some time is still just as hot as it ever has been.
Yeah, it really is. And we see Andalo in there as well. He's still working his way up to the front. There's Wilkie around. Oh, man. I think he got clear of all that, but obviously that's going to cost him several seconds off the track there. Is he going to tow? He is indeed. Yep. So I think he's a little bit frustrated as well. Turn 4 seems to be dealing some fits today.
And unfortunate there for Josh, who was putting on a really good one. That turn 4 braking zone is super tough to try and nail down. You're going downhill, and I would say by and large, the Spec Racer Fords, middle of the road when it comes to Weekend Warriors race cars, of ones where you have to keep the momentum heading off into the corners, and it's not super sketchy through the braking zone. Actually, no, I would say the Spec Racer Fords are probably the least sketchy of the Weekend Warriors race cars when it comes to braking zones. Those Formula Vs, you basically have to scrub off as little speed as possible. The Formula Fords, from my own racing experience, I can assure you it's like driving a shifter car heading off into some of the corners, banging through the gears, and being completely terrified that you're going to crash until it actually pulls up in time. But these Spec Racer Fords, still not easy heading into the braking zones around some of these corners. Turn 4, that downhill run certainly being no different.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're exactly right. That is a very difficult braking zone, and then you've got grass on the outside of the corner, which you're trying to take that entry as wide as possible, which makes that much more sketchy there. I'm sorry, as I say grass, and that's actually not. It's actually curbs, but the curbs are serrated, and does make the braking a little more challenging as well. And then you see the debris coming out of the corner, which is not the thing you want to be looking at as you're trying to get back on the throttle. As we're on board here with old buddy Jim Brewster, running in 14th, having himself quite a good run. He's up a couple positions, sitting there right behind Jeff Jacobson. The Masters battle here. I'm sorry, it's not. Jeff Jacobson is now in the Spec 2 group. So it's Jeff running in 13th and Jim running in 14th.
And hearing from Michelle Lynn in the other YouTube chat that she's got split screen. Oh boy, what is it with the English language not working well with me during this broadcast? The split screen of the Formula One Grand Prix and this broadcast here on SMB. As you can see, that side-by-side racing involving, oh boy, that could have ended in tears. That was basically no separation between it. Jim Brewster getting that move done down into turn number 3, and that was Jeff Jacobson, the 240 car, and it was still a fight back from Jacobson. He had that run heading down that stretch off into turn 4, gets that move done into the braking zone, so well done to Jacobson. He is on the comeback tour still, and as it stands presently, he has gained 9 spots from where he started in this race. Was it not the hard charger quite yet, as Andrea Favini a little bit farther behind, up 15. Holy cow. Yeah,
Favini's still having a good run up through the field, and has got a little bit of work to do to get up to those. He's a couple seconds back with that battle with Jacobson and Brewster. As we're back up here to the front group here, we got Ondalo running in 10th, right behind Thompson and Perry. So they're that kind of that second big group. You see Fritcher back there behind them in the Petty Blue 943 Spec Racer. So they're still battling. Obviously, they're losing a little bit of time. They're 6.5 seconds back behind Osbeck and Lynn, who is still losing time to that front 5 as well.
And the point that I was going to say before we saw that replay of the Jeff Jacobson and Jim Brewster racing action down into turn number 3, Boshell split screen with the F1 coverage and this broadcast here on SMB today, and noting that our graphics are better. So that's we'll take the wins when we can get them. And
hey, you know what? I think the broadcast
well.
is better too, but that's just my opinion.
Less British.
Yeah, it is less British for sure.
Boy, here's a good one. So I don't talk about this too much. Here's story time with Ron on today's Spec Racer for the Weekend Warriors broadcast. Don't really talk about this too much. I used to have a pretty bad speech impediment and lisp as I was a kid, and I will actually hold off on that story as Matt Thompson and Jason Perry swap spots yet again. Down to turn number 1, no big deal. Those drivers have been battling a lot throughout this race. But I used to have a pretty bad speech impediment. I couldn't really pronounce my O's, so I kind of talked like this. These drivers do not want me to get a damn story out. Felix Samoa's and Nazelli side by side heading off. Coming out of turn number 3, Samoa's getting that run. Nazelli tucking back into the draft. It's a pack at the front of this field. Marco Pinero still in the midst of all of this. Eric Luke has driven beautifully in that Spec 2 709 car, running strong as Nazelli trying to make it work. Down the inside, off into turn number 4. He's trying to find anything to get this move done on Samoa's. That was oh so close to ending an absolute disaster. Forget me talking about my speech impediment where people thought I sounded British. Let's talk about this racing. That could have ended in tears about 17 different times.
Yeah, absolutely. They're battling really hard up front. That's actually helping that second group of Lynn and Osbeck out. You know, it's giving them a chance because obviously you can't go through the corner as nearly as fast as normal when you've got a car on one side or the other. Luke doing a great job of just kind of riding in fourth. He's not really. Oh, that was a very. Oh no!
Oh, and that is running way too wide as Pinero and Samoa is going to get hung out to dry down into turn 10.
I was going to say, speaking of Formula One, that looks like a Formula One corner with two cars battling through it. The inside car basically takes every bit of the corner, pushes the outside car wide, and forced him to fall back. And you saw that happen with both Naselli and Pinero on Felix Samoa's. As we're going to get on board here again, and we're going to get, and you're just going to see it. He's going to move to the inside, and make the run down into turn 9. And he's just going to, a little touch there, and then Pinero finds his way in there and just says, nope, you're going to go out there, and we're going to make contact a little more. And so actually cost Pinero as well. So they're back in 4th and 5th, and the group is still 5 cars, but obviously we've reshuffled the order again as we see. Looks like Luke's trying to make a move.
Yeah, Eric Luke on the outside in the 709 car, Nazelli on the inside in the 44, a battle with a Spec 1 and Spec 2 driver, both the leaders in their respective classes, and Nazelli going to withstand that challenge for now. Now past the halfway mark, so we certainly have to think about those pit stops here in the not too far off future. We'll say, talking about that Pinero and Samoa's incident, just looked like a good old case of iRacing glue heading down into turn number 10. They got attached, and then iRacing was just, you know what? I like this. This is an 8-wheel Spec Racer Ford car. They're a little bit mismatched, but hey, we'll take it. And then they tried to go off into the corner, and as much as 8 may be more than 4, 4 sometimes is better than 8. And based off the fact they lost out on a boatload of time, I think that just about proves as Maurizio Nazelli coming down pit lane, and I think he will be joined by Marco Pinero and Jason Green. Or actually, no, I think they may have had an incident. Jason Green, not sure what's going on.
I'm not sure either, but Pinero's front end is severely damaged there as we see Naselli come into the pits. Looked like maybe Samoa's was off the pace there as well, but he's managed to get back up to that group. He was a couple seconds down coming out of 4. And so this just kind of got all kind of strange. But to find a replay and see what actually happened with that.
I think I know exactly what happened here. I think it's close pack, turn 9, 1 driver coming down pit lane, three things that go about as poorly together as peanut butter, tuna, and high-grade military class
Oh, yeah,
explosives. Those
absolutely.
contact, huge crash. Heading through there, all four of them got wiped out. So in all of that, the one breakaway will be Nazeli. Samoas has got himself nestled back into that battle. But all of those cars, with the exception of Felix Samoas, who was just like, hey, thank you very much, guys. I'll jump back into the race lead. Outside of that, they're all damaged, and also Yanchi, Lin, and Joaquin Mosbeck have caught up too.
Yeah, and that's not gonna be great for those guys up front. Yanchi has done a great job working his way up to the field, and the car is still clean. So you see the damage on the front of Pinero's car. Looks like Samoas is in pretty good shape, but now he's got another fast driver in there, along with Luke. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And we're coming through 9, and Naselli checked up to enter the pits, and none of the rest of the guys did, and you saw all the contact that occurred.
And we're probably going to be seeing these drivers at least attempt to enter pit lane here. Let's see how it works out. These cars do have brake lights. Oh, yeah, okay, that could have ended a disaster yet again. Pinero, Lin, and Luke all coming down pit lane together. I started speaking in Hindu, spelled HENDOO, as that could have ended in pure unbridled disaster for the second lap in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get Russ Tilker here coming up into turn 1. Let's see what happens to old Russ. Too much of the inside curb, catches that big diamond curb on the inside, bounces the car over the outside curb at the corner, and loses it. And that's pretty standard for turn 1 here. Poulin just maybe missed his braking point and carried that way too deep into 4. He's going to bring some more of that trash back out onto the track, and it's going to make the exit of 4 a little more sketchier for the rest of the cars.
And yet again, a moment heading down into turn number 4. From my own experience, it is such a tough braking zone to try and nail down. You get it right, you're going to feel like $1 million. You get it wrong, and you're probably going to owe your team $1 million to repair the damage. So it's, you get the yin with the yang. We all have our moments.
Look at all that gravel.
I'm not entirely sure. Look at the gravel. Holy cow! It's so stoned that, and we're off the air.
Yep. So yeah, that'll clean itself up, but it's going to take the cars coming through there for a couple of laps to get a nice clean groove back in the gravel. They'll get the debris warnings as they come through 4 to let them know that we've got a slippery surface. As they're going to be on board here with Samoas. We've got 26 minutes done. So we see Osbeck move to the pits, and Samoas is now out on his own. And that's not where you necessarily want to be, especially when you had 3 cars come in together. We see Perry come into the pits as well. Sometimes you can, you just take that strategy and I'm going to run it till it's out of fuel and stay out. But now you don't have that drafting partner, so it's going to make things for those guys that came in together maybe an advantage for them.
Yeah, one thing to raise talking about Felix Samoa staying out for some more laps is the fact that he's not getting any sort of draft assistance from anyone either. So we may potentially see Samoa's shoot himself in the foot, so to speak, in this event. That's not going to be the premier strategy. Not going to be the premier strategy to try and use here in this race. Talking about how we weren't British on this broadcast. Clearly, I can only enunciate my words properly if I speak in a British accent. So here we go with some nice racing heading down that straightaway into turn number 3. And it's going to be Marco Pinero jumping in front of Yanchi Lin.
Yeah. Okay, so Guido's telling us that he's been watching time in his corner. He says this will be the overall lead after the pit stops are done. So you're seeing Pinero jumped in front of Lin there. Lin looking to the inside, could not make the move going into 3. So he's going to kind of hang back, and you see the gap that they've got back to Eric Luke back there behind them for about a second and a half.
Yeah, and now that we're getting to the end of this race in the final 12 minutes, what is Felix Samoa going to do? He's not fluttering the brakes like he has done the past couple of laps. Yes, I was just going to say he wasn't fluttering the brakes. He wasn't taking his normal line. He had to come down pit lane. That's exactly what he did. And here we go. There's Pinero and Lin. They're heading their way through turn number 8 right now as Samoas comes down pit lane. He's joined by the likes of Matt Thompson, your current Spec 2 leader through this pit cycle. Jeff Fritcher and Tom Bradlow and Jim Brewster, all the top 3 in Masters. But Samoas, this I'm not sure is going to be a race-winning strategy. Flavio Andalo staying out for another lap, so that will be him jumping into the race lead. Let's see how this works out for Samoas. He's on pit exit already. Here's the 2. Panero Lynn down that start-finish straightaway. He's not going to have the best run off through turn number 1, taking the shallower pit exit line, I should say. But Samoas actually going to come out with a bit of a cushion. He will be on cold tires for this out lap, but that worked out surprisingly well for Samoas.
Yeah, it did. He did a great job, and he's out of the draft range from Panero and Lynn. 1.7 second gap from timing and scoring, so he did exactly what he needed to do, and it was a great pit stop. 11.6 stoppage time, and that was the key to getting him back out front.
So that will be Felix Samoas jumping into the provisional temporary P2, what will turn into the race lead once Flavio Andalo comes down pit lane in the not too far off future. Credit where credit is due, though, to Matt Thompson. He's put on a rather hard-charging effort, slotted in 8th at the present moment, up 5 spots from where he started in this race, as that was somebody running wide and off into the gravel. I think it may have potentially been Yanchi Lin. Gap has ballooned out a bit between Panero and Lynn over the past couple of moments, but nonetheless, Matt Thompson putting on a pretty good performance in P8. As here's Andalo, and there he is coming into the pits in the 13 car. So that will give the race lead back to Felix Samoas.
Yeah, he'll lose the lead. Obviously, he'll come back somewhere around the edge of the top 10. So still having a good run is Andalo. So he'll be back in there and be able to challenge, but you see the gap opened a little bit between Samoas and Panero, but it is starting to close now. It's 1.2 and closing. Once he gets to that 1 second mark, then it may be game on, because once these cars get in the draft, then they're going to tighten back up down these straightaways.
Yeah, and that gap is not a comfortable one if you are Felix Samoas. 0.9 of a second in a Spec Racer Ford race can disappear in the blink of an eye. One mistake, he's going to find himself behind those competitors. If he just doesn't have a good run, he may end up falling behind them as well, as that side-by-side racing with Jason Green and Joachim Osbeck. That's going to let Jason Green slip his way up into 5th. Osbeck slipping in tow. Eric Luke still holding on to your Spec 2 lead, as through the pit cycle, Jeff Fritcher is your leader in the Masters class, occupying the final spot inside the top 10. But here's the man I mentioned earlier on, Matt Thompson in the 333 car. Haven't talked about him too much when it comes to that Spec 2 battle. The attention has definitely been on Eric Luke right off the back of his appearance on the Racing Line podcast this past week. He set in a brilliant lap time to start this race in P2, has been running in that front pack for quite some time, but Matt Thompson has actually put in a bit of a sleeper performance here in the 333.
Yeah, absolutely. He's having a great run, running in 8th overall, 2nd in class. And you see Andalo came out of the pits as the last pitter, comes out in P7, so he's leading that group. And so they'll do their best to see if they can start closing that gap up to Osbeck. Obviously, 6 seconds is quite a bit of a gap, and the draft is going to help. They'll all get to go faster because of it, but it may be too much for that group unless something happens to Osbeck.
And there's still plenty of time for some chicanery to go on in this event. Let's think about what happened last week at Donington Park. It was a titanic battle at the front of the field, and then it resulted in not a change in race. Well, it did result in a change of race lead after the front 2 picked up disqualifications milliseconds apart from each other. So, hey, we can still very much well see Felix Samoas get struck by a falling anvil. Panero swapped that engine out in his race car for a V12. Got some lap traffic involved in all this as well. And you can see how desperate Felix Samoas is trying to pick off the drift from the 555 cars. They came out of the corner. That was Paolo Bremislow on the inside. That really did not benefit Samoas at all. Not sure why he did that. He's still going to hold on to the race lead with some massive weaving, heading down that straightaway off into turn number 4. These two are going to put on one heck of a battle.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And you were mentioning last week we had the same situation where Samoa's came out and there was contact between the front two cars, double disqualification. But I also want to go back and remind our viewers, if they don't remember, the last time we were here at this track was with the Formula Fords, and we had a last lap battle that involved lap traffic, which is what we have now. We've got a lap car in front of these guys, or did. The 555 car, they've managed to work their way through, but we've got a couple other cars that are up there that they'll be gaining on over the last few minutes of this race. So that might be involved in that as well. As we see now, that gap to Lynn is now closed up, so he's going to add another car to that group.
Oh, and I don't have a good feeling about this at all. Samoa's and Panero, they're side by side, hang down into turn number 1. Look at Samoa's tracking mid lane down that start finish straight away off into turn number 1. Panero will get the move done, but having to take the shallower approach, he's going to be a bit of a sitting duck heading down this straightaway. This flat out blast down into turn number 3. May end up seeing Panero lose a race lead. We may end up seeing P3 to 30 of Yanqi Lin jump into the race lead. He's going to split the difference, baby. Try and make it 3 wide almost down into turn number 3. This is getting really, really dicey. I don't have a good feeling about this, though. They've been swapping sides, weaving all around the racetrack. I feel like something's got to break here soon.
Yep, and here comes Jason Green in the background as well, as bringing Eric Luke with him. So now that group, as these guys up front are fighting, they're adding more and more cars to this pack, and it's going to make things really interesting here in the last 5 minutes.
Holy cow, they're close to making contact coming out of turn number 4. Bump drafting in a Spec Racer Ford. It can work, but if it goes bad, it goes desperately wrong. So these drivers are playing with fire in the final 5 minutes of this race. This is going to be some fun. If you are Jason Green, what do you even think? It's going to be a case of deja vu for him yet again. He was not really involved in that battle for the race win at Donington Park, but because of some drama there, a double DQ, he was able to pick up the race lead in the final 10 minutes and cruise away with the victory. In the final 5 minutes of this race, he finds himself P4 of a 6-car pack full of absolute insanity. Felix Samoa's, though, coming down pit lane, and I have a feeling that was for a black flag. He picked up a black flag. Heartbreaker for Samoa's.
Wow, you get a drive-through penalty for the black flag. That's heartbreaking. It is, and that's 2 weeks in a row. So he's lost that front group, and so now we're keeping an eye on the rest of them. How many others have we got up there that are pushing the limits of that incident limit of the 13, I believe, if I remember correctly. So. And Lynn has taken the lead over Panero.
Yeah, and all that, Yanqi Lin has jumped into the race lead. Felix Samoa's, I think, has just decided to call it a day in the number 41 car. He's dropped all the way down to 24th. He's behind Russ Telker, who has not been involved in an incident in the 260 car. He actually picked up a total disqualification. Again, to a reminder to anyone who hasn't tuned into these Weekend Warriors broadcasts before, in this series, you have 13x as the limit. When you hit 18, you pick up a DQ. That is not something that any sort of race control team does. That is the rule set here in iRacing with this league, and when iRacing sees you've hit 18, they yoink you out. They say, nope, you're done, see ya, and you are out of this race. With 3 minutes left on the clock, we've already had one driver drop out of this top 6, which is now top 5. Let's see if we have another one turning it into a top 4.
Yeah, if our timing and scoring is accurate, and I don't think that it is, because I'm not seeing anything close to that for Samoa's, but the group that's up front, Yanqi Lin, has the highest count as far as incident points so far, so he's going to be very careful because Maselli had a terrible pit stop, is what I'm hearing. Yep, so he's down in P15. That's way off the front of the group, now.
And Marissa Nazelli is probably going to be leaving this race thinking what could have been at the end of it all.
I mentioned when he came in very, very, very fast. And I think he got a pit road speeding penalty or a pit entry speeding penalty. So he's 40 seconds slower than everybody else as we get the battle in the 3.
Oh, no! They come to blows. That's Yanqi Lin spinning Marco Panero. Jason Green gonna get caught up in all of that. He's now gonna try and get moved on Yanqi Lin in the grass coming out of turn number 3. It's now Jason Green in the race lead, but there's a bit of damage on that race car. You can see the kick out on that front left tire. That's gonna slow him down like a parachute, heading down some of the flat out blasts around this racetrack. They're coming the white flag this time by, and these drivers are not wasting any time. Yanqi Lin now trying to get moved on to retake the race lead, and the 160 of Jason Green will be on the inside line down into turn number 6. Marco Panero in the 16 car, we can't discredit him either. Lots of these drivers, this has been a disastrous event for all of them. They've picked up black flags. Marco Panero and Yanqi Lin have both picked up incident point black flags. That could be part of the reason why Yanqi is fighting this as hard as he can. He's like, hey, look, I have no skin left in this battle. I just want to have some fun. Marco Panero getting struck with that falling anvil. Both of them really did it to themselves heading down into turn number 3. Panero's going to come in to serve that black flag. Yanqi isn't. That is going to net him a 40-second penalty if he crosses the line, which he will do next time by with the white flag in the air. One more lap of racing action. You can serve a drive-through penalty on the last lap. I think Yanqi's just staying out here to be a bit of a thorn in the side to these two right behind, Jason Green and Eric Luke in the 160 and 709. They're going to be smelling blood in the water. Eric Luke started this race in P2. As it stands at the moment, he would finish P2 with those penalties heading the way of Yanqi Lin. That's going to ruin the drive of the man who's been the hard charger by a pretty significant margin. 14 spots. The only driver who's gained more is Andre Favini, but it's a battle at the front. Jason Green trying to make something stick around the outside, but here comes Eric Luke. Some more battling going on right behind. That's Andalo Thompson and Barry giving us a three-way, three-wide fight down into turn 3 at the very end of this race on lap 23. Lots of threes there, but here's the 3 I'm keeping my eyes on. Yanqi Lin holding on to that inside line down into the hairpin to turn 4. Jason Green looking to make anything work. Maybe a bit of contact going on involving those two competitors. Eric Luke now trying to find any way in the book to get past Green himself. We also have to think about those incident points. Yanqi already has that black flag. Brema has a black flag too, but he's a little bit farther in the back of the pack. But Yanqi at the front of this field, he is leading it, as that's a moment. What in the world has happened to Joachim Osbeck? He may have run out of gas. He's just flat out stopped coming out of turn 4 through turn 5 in the grass. So not sure what the deal is for him. He's going to be out of it. That's an unfortunate moment for the driver of the 210. But at the front of the field, it is Yanqi Lin leading them, heading off through turns number 9 and 10. But that outstanding black flag, he hasn't served it. That's going to net him a 40-second penalty. So at the end of this race, win number 3 on the season goes to Jason Green, the 160.
Yeah, absolutely. Great run. I mean, it was a great battle up there. And just, this is 2 weeks in a row now. We've seen that, the hard battles with the contacts. Oh, so no. I'm hearing that maybe that was a meatball by Yanqi, which you can. Not. It was not?
I was looking through. This is according to the iRacing information that I'm getting in the sim. It was a meatball flag. As much as my eyes don't really work too well as eyes, I saw that as a black flag. So I'm not sure what's going on. I think they're going to wait for everyone to cross the line to see. Okay, so we're hearing from our producer that he has officially won this race. I'm just going to wait for all the cars to cross that start-finish line to get any further word, because my eyes weren't playing any tricks on me. He picked up a black flag. Unless the iRacing is playing us like a fiddle, he picked up a black flag, and he'll pick up a 40-second penalty, which will drop him all the way down behind Maurizio Nazelli. He'll be slotted in P14 at the end of it all. So,
we're still got. Whoa! What's Yanqi doing there? All right. So, based on iRacing and how it does things, if it's a black flag for incident points, it's a 40-second penalty at the end of the race, which would take Yanqi out. However, we are hearing the conflicting information that maybe it was a meatball flag, in which case you can do that as long as you don't, if it's within the final 3 laps of the race, you can finish with that, which means that Yanqi would have won. So we'll wait for everybody to cross the start-finish line and the final timing and scoring will update with any penalties, and we'll know for sure.
Yep, and Brad Cathcart, the last to cross that start-finish line right about there, so that will be it for all of the drivers crossing the line. Yanchi did pick up a penalty. He drops down to 14th. So, yes, it was a black flag for Yanchi Lin at the end of this race. He is not your winner. Jason Green is. That'll be his 3rd win of the season and his 2nd in a row. So well done to Jason Green for grabbing the checkered flag at the end of it all. It was a rather odd finish. The first time, I think, in my entire time covering the Weekend Warriors that we have seen a driver cross. Actually, I should say a driver knowingly having a black flag cross that start-finish line in the race lead and just give the race win to P2. So either way, it is still done on merit to Jason Green. You could see him burning his stuff down at the end of this race. That was the reason why I was waiting for Brad Cathcart to cross the line. He started in 21st, finishes in 21st. He was the last car to cross that start-finish line, and iRacing would not put that penalty onto him unless everyone was already across the line, and that just about proved it there. So Yanchi Lin is classed a little bit farther towards the back at the end of this race. And let's take a look at the moment that really changed it all at the front.
Yeah, as you see him almost 3 wide going down in, you see the contact there, just a little bit of a touch there between Lin and Panero, gets him sideways. Jason Green comes in, helps him get his car righted, but you see the damage. But it is not necessarily all the contact, or I'm sorry, it's not necessarily the spins or everything. It's the contacts and those 4Xs, and they just pile up and accumulate. And the next thing you know, you get drive-through penalties, and that pretty much ruins the race for you, because it's about a 35-second or so time penalty by driving down the length of the pit straight. And I think I mentioned earlier, Naselli got a pit entry penalty, I think, because I was just looking at it. It was 40 seconds longer than everybody else. So it was either an unsafe entry or pit entry speeding, which added to his pit stop time, which took him out of the battle for the win.
It was just hard racing heading down into turn number 3, and it completely changed the complexion of this race. What did I say earlier on? Never say never when it comes to these Spec Race and Ford races. For Jason Green, entering the final 7.5 minutes of that race, he was well farther back. And at the end of it all, he's the one that grabs the win.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the nature of these cars. Obviously, we're in a track that you get some really good drafts off of. You saw the cars that were battling through the corners, and that slowed them down, and that just allowed the group up front to get bigger and bigger, and Jason Green ends up with the victory.
Yep, so Jason Green grabbing the win at the end of this race. A quarter of a second was a gap between Eric Luke. As much as it is a fantastic result for your Spec 2 points leader, your Spec 2 winner at the end of this race here at the Red Bull Ring, if he had a quarter more second in his back pocket, that may have been an overall win, and that would have been absolutely fantastic for him. He still ends up in second. I'm sure he's not going to be upset about that result one bit. Jeff Fritcher finishes in P3. We have Flavio and Dallo finishing in 4th, right behind your Masters winner, Fritcher. Marco Panero is classed in 5th at the end of that race. He came in to serve that drive-through penalty. At the end of it all, though, he only finished 11 seconds back of your race leader of Jason Green, so it really shows you how quickly you can get a drive-through taken care of in this race. Matt Thompson is classed in P6 at the end of it all. Jason Perry in P7. We have Andre Favini in 8th, Jim Brewster in 9th, and Tom Gradwell rounding out our top 10.
Yep, Philip Berry finishes in 11th, Jeff Jacobson in 12th, Maurizio Naselli ends up in 13th after the pit speeding penalty. Yanchi Lin 14th after the 40-second penalty for not serving his black flag. Andrew Love in 15th, Adam Bradshaw 16th, Paul Jackson in 17th. As we scroll the board there, Ken Poulin in 18th, Joaquin Osbeck looked like he ran out of fuel there on the last lap in 19th. And Baglini in 20th will run the rest of the list. Brad Cathcart 21st, Paulo Brim 22nd, Felix Samoas in 23rd, Russell Telker 24th, Mario Krimzer in 25th, Josh Wilkie 26th, Payne Lasky 27th, Stevie Ray in 28th, and Anthony Claudel did not take the start and will be classified as our 29th place finisher. And that is, and hey, you know what? Spec 1, Spec 2, Spec 3, all of our class winners on the podium today. Awesome job.
Yeah, that's the first time that has happened in pretty much my entire time covering the Weekend Warriors, at least as far as I remember. So a truly bizarre race here at the Red Bull Ring. We got some drivers looking to have a chat with us at the end of all of this as well. And I think I will start with our race winner at the end of the day, the man that became the first multi-time winner of the season last time out at Donington Park, and here today he gets his third win of the season and his second in a row. Jason, welcome into the booth and congratulations on the win here at the Red Bull Ring. Happy to talk us through that bull in a china cabinet kind of race.
Oh my! I have no idea what that race was. That was interesting. I was just kind of chilling, trying to save fuel, and then I guess Marzucchi wanted to pit early, and that's when it kind of all turned into chaos. That suddenly Eric was sideways in front of me. Kind of just prayed for the best. I guess I straightened him out a little bit. Then just pitted, tried to push really hard, and then they were battling super hard in front of me, and then. I ended up on 11x, and so I couldn't really fight Yanchi that hard, and then I guess he had a penalty or something, so didn't realize until way at the end that I was actually in P1.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your perspective of that last lap battle, but I think you just about answered that question for me. Yanchi picked up a black flag the lap before Panero came in to serve it. He just stayed out in pure defiance and ended up kind of shooting himself in the foot at the end of all that. But nonetheless, that had to have been a scary final lap of that race. Having Yanchi right in front, knowing that those incidents were starting to rack up and at risk of picking up a black flag yourself, plus with Eric Luke right behind looking to try and get any position in the book as your Spec 2 leader.
For sure. Yeah, and I think both of the 4Xs that I got were, I think Eric was involved in both of them, unintentionally, of course. So I knew Eric was also probably flirting with a slowdown as well. So I knew he would probably be smart about it. I don't know. I couldn't really tell if Yanchi had a penalty or not. I thought he might just be low on fuel. But yeah, so I tried to battle a little bit, but I couldn't really go all out because I didn't want to risk a 4X.
Yeah, it still worked out for you at the end of it all. Your third win of this season, second in a row. Pretty good way to kick off the second half of this season. You and Felix had a brilliant championship battle last season, but it's looking pretty good for you as it stands at the present moment. The first multi-time winner in Spec 1, and to have now 2 in a row, that must be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it did come at the cost of people getting penalties in front of me, but I'll pick. I won't say no to some good luck. It's better to be lucky than good sometimes.
I mean, in terms of being lucky, I feel like you can look at my broadcasting career and see how luck can get you places. So it works out pretty well having luck on your side. I think there's a Kevin Harvick quote about Jimmy Johnson having some very good luck that I will not say on the air because I don't think that can be broadcasted. But head to the Bathurst, Mount Panorama in 1 week's time. That's going to be a draft fest, but that's going to be some fun racing as well.
For sure, yeah, it's a draft track, but it's also a driver track as well. So it's kind of a cool mix. A lot of fun in this car, especially with the new tires. So yeah, it should be interesting as long as we can make it through lap 1. Hopefully, it didn't just jinx us. It should be a good race.
Hey, if it comes out of my mouth, chances are it's probably going to end in a jinx, but it came out of your mouth, so I think we're good to go. But that's going to be good. I kind of said at the start of the show that the Bathurst round from last season, I should say, was actually the most viewed Spec Racer Ford race ever here in the history of the Slow Motion Broadcasting YouTube channel. So I think that's going to be a pretty good one there. But Jason, thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth. And before we let you go and celebrate, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Shout out as always to Michelle. I was reusing her setup, so I've got to shout her out. Shout out to Stevie as always for putting this together. And shout out to everybody who showed up today. This league wouldn't be as cool as it is without everybody showing up every week. So shout out to everybody that shows up.
And shout out to you as well for grabbing your third win this season, Jason. Thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth, and well done on surviving the madness here at the Red Bull Ring.
Well, let's go. Thanks, guys.
And that right there was our winner at the end of this race, Jason Green. And Charles, who do you want to have a chat with?
Hey, let's bring in our second place winner and our S2 class winner, Eric Luke. Bring him down and have a chat. Eric, congratulations, P2 overall and a class victory. You had a really good day today. You started up in second place, and obviously they took advantage of you a little bit there at the start, but you didn't panic and you just kind of stayed up front and survived some of the incidents that we had.
Barely. That was I joked mid-race. I said it was a good thing I'm wearing my brown pants today. So it was the start of it, especially in a high draft track. There's the only thing I was really concentrating on was just to make sure that we were breaking from the pack behind us, so we didn't have 15, 16 cars in a train going up. And when I saw that the trailing pack was down to about 2 seconds, my next priority was just to stay on the bumper. There was no reason to battle. There was no reason to fight, because you get in front, you're just going to get draft pasted, and it just slows everybody down. So I just kind of hung in there, and I can't remember who was in front of me, but they dove into the pits. I didn't know they were diving into the pits, and that's when chaos ensued. And unfortunately, Felix got tied up with me as well. I know Jason bumped into me, and thankfully I was able to correct the car, come into the pits, and use that glorious fast repair. And just kind of put my head down, and I thought I was done. I thought I was going to be stuck in fifth or sixth, and the guys up front started battling towards the closing laps, and it brought us right up to the rear. And I guess a couple guys had drive-through penalties at the end, and at the end of the day, I got a solid P2 finish.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just, if you could draw it up before the race, that's exactly what you want to do, right? Is make the most of your ability, and then get a little luck thrown in on top of it.
Absolutely.
All right. So next week, Bathurst, Mount Panorama. Apparently the most viewed spec racer race on slow motion. So how are you feeling about that race next week?
Well, first off, we need to go ahead and get this out of the way. Mount Panorama is the greatest racetrack to ever exist on planet Earth, or even possibly the universe. I love Mount Panorama. It is very much a rhythm track. It's so satisfying to get it right. Especially going down the mountain. Nothing feels better in the car. Maybe Spoon at Suzuka, when you get that right, that feels good. But a flying lap around Mount Panorama is just absolute pure bliss. I probably have the most laps of any track on the service has been Mount Panorama. So I am absolutely looking forward to it.
Well, then I think we should firmly expect you to be up near the front of the pack again. So
don't say that. Don't say it. Don't do that. Don't do that.
The commentator's curse only works while we're actively racing. So it should be okay.
Fair enough.
Whenever it comes out of my mouth.
So Eric, we'll let you give any thanks and shout outs, and we'll see you next week.
Big thanks again to Cloud Valve, and thank you to Slow Motion Broadcasting for doing what you guys do, and to the guys at the SRF Series Weekend Warriors. That was a fun race. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you guys next weekend.
All right, Eric, thanks. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And that right there was our P2 finisher at the end of this race, and our Spec 2 winner, Eric Luke, joining us in the booth. It's another Spec 2 win for him. He's really tearing it up in that class. And before we let you all go, I think we'll have a quick little chat with Jim Brewster. He's up there waiting in the interview waiting area, and we get a chance to drag him into the booth. Jim, welcome in. Holy cow, that was a barn burner here at the Red Bull Ring.
Hey, I don't get top 10s in surfs very often. I don't know if you guys keep track of that. It's a blue moon. So first of all, to all the racers out there that don't do post-race interviews, you miss out a great way to meet people. And I just got to meet Mr. Eric Luke. We had never talked. And the interview waiting room is a great place just to hang out and get to meet people. And secondly, for you guys' benefit, I wanted to show you that Jeff Jacobson and I can race politely all day long together. Did you see that today?
You know, I was referencing the collision that you and him had yesterday, and I didn't even put it together that it was you and him battling out there on the track. I was just talking about how it was a good comeback after what happened during the Formula V race yesterday, and I was like, is there anything else to touch on that? No, I think that's just about it.
No, Jeff and I can work together. We were doing the arrow trick, and every once in a while, we'd swap places, and we were just tucked in behind each other, acting like we were racing Formula V's. Anyway, it was a fun race, and I'm very excited. I beat Mr. Tom Gradwell today. That does not happen hardly ever. Tom usually kicks my butt by many, many positions, and then Jeff Fritcher walked away from all of us. So just to prove that there are fast old guys. So hello to Tam. Hello to you guys. I can't wait to watch the show. It was fun.
You'll enjoy this one for sure.
Yes. Oh, so by the way, on the grid, me and Andrew are on Discord during the race, and we go, what universe are we in? The Yancy is gridded back here in the cheap seats with us. And then we noticed that he made it all the way to the front, although maybe he picked up a couple extra X's along the way.
Yeah. He came in very late. I think he was we were halfway through qualifying when he actually got in here. So he had a very, very late qualifying run that put him up there. So
and then look what he did.
And then look what what I said during the broadcast. He's not an SCCA runoff champion for nothing, right? He absolutely knows how to drive these cars.
I'm glad you guys all remember that, because that was, that's what I think of him as. I mean, first of all, that he's just a veteran with us, and he wins on a lot of different cars. But that runoff performance he did a couple years ago was just amazing. So that's how I think of him. I'm glad you guys have that in your memory banks too. Anyway, have a good week, guys. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for everything.
And thank you as well for all the work you do on the Formula V, Jim. Thank you for joining us here in the booth as well. That right there was your P2 runner in the Masters class and P10 finisher overall, Jim Brewster, joining us here in the commentary booth. Charles Bathurst in 1 week's time. Oh boy.
All right, so I struggle with Bathurst. I struggle with a lot of tracks, but Bathurst in particular seems to be the one that I can't cope with. Now, however, that being said, it is an absolute blast to watch races there. The technical ability for these drivers to run that course is obviously far superior to mine. So with the amount of drafting and then with the amount of battling we've had up at the front of this race, this is either going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be one of the classic races of Spec Racer history, or we're going to have a pile up going up the mountain through the corner three, and half the field's going to die. So it's going to be one of those two. We won't know until next week, but I'll absolutely be here for it, and it's going to be amazing to watch.
And that is going to be a good one in 1 week's time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. We're on a streak of some pretty good races here in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. I have a feeling that race at Bathurst is going to be a good one as well. But as for this broadcast today, for round number 7 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors at the Red Bull Ring, I think that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi doing a wonderful job working all the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching this broadcast on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.